figure I've dealt with it. I mean, it's probably been 10 out of 15 years. Tinkered with it. Kind of less than that. We'll have something. Yeah, I think there's some patchwork we can do. It's fairly simple, but that's kind of what I'm hoping to have some drafts put in front of you at the meeting today so that we can come away pretty quickly and not have to go deep in the weeds on it. But George was obviously part. George has strong opinions. We did a few years ago, and so we'll see what I don't know if you want to take that time. Okay. Good. Looking forward to getting back with everybody soon. Yeah.
Alrighty. We'll call this meeting to order. Welcome, everybody, and we'll begin the evening with public comment. We have one individual signed up, Mr. Lee Black. If you want to just come to the podium. And when you come to the podium, just make sure you speak clearly into the microphone and say your name, your address, and then you'll have 3 minutes when the clerk is ready.
Okay, my name is Leroy Black, live at 340 Howard Gap Road here in Fletcher. My concern is the growth of the trees along the side of the road impeding or impairing the view of the flow of traffic. When you pull out of Howard Gap Road, you can make a turn on right on red. You look left, it's very difficult to see oncoming traffic. Now, if you're across the road at the Costa's restaurant, the same thing. You look left, you can't see clearly. And if no one's noticed, we have an increased flow of traffic in and around the Fletcher area. That's my concern. That's it for me.
So you're just saying those little trees, they're on the edge of the road as you're pulling out of the light?
Yes.
Yeah.
When you look left, I guess they'd be looking south toward the old Cranston plant, very difficult time seeing traffic, and some people on their phones or in a hurry. I guess being facetious, I could say vegetation not blocking the view of the clock tower. Well, I guess I got on the bad side there now.
No.
No, you're good.
Okay.
No, it's fine.
Well, that's, people around know me. Few months, you'll see me red suit. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. A quick question with that, Mark. Is that on private property or is that right of way, inside the right of way? Do you know that?
We have to see where it is. If we're talking Howard Gap in 25, some parts it's probably mostly DOT right away. It may be off of it. And then other parts down Howard Gap, it's likely to be DOT right away.
So if it's DOT right of way, it'd be something we can.
Yeah, we can contact DOT.
Thank you.
All right, do we have anybody else that wishes to speak during public comment? Alrighty, seeing none, we'll close the public comment period and move on to updates from council, if there are any. Any updates from council?
Yeah, so I attended the TAC meeting today, Harrison County Transportation Advisory Committee meeting. We had a couple of reviews looking at prioritization over the next 7 years. Funding is going to be low, so we were trying to identify 3 projects. None of those lie within Fletcher. They are within other parts of the county. But one of the topics that came up, I'm sure everybody's aware if you've driven down 25 across I-26, both sides are down to one lane. So that bridge is going to be constructed to a diverging diamond pattern like on Airport Road over I-26. And so at some point, sometime around June the 14th, that weekend, just everybody be aware, the 25 is going to be completely closed in both directions that whole weekend. To
June
14th. Barring timing, utility, construction costs, that sort of thing, and how the weather falls, but that whole section of 25 will be closed for about 2 to 3 days while they complete that diverging diamond pattern. So they just wanted everybody up this way to be aware of that.
Wow. I didn't know they were doing a diverging diamond interchange there.
I had heard, but got it confirmed today there at the TAC meeting.
Okay.
All righty, thank you. Any other updates from council? Hearing none, already moving on to the consent agenda. We have one item on there regarding extension to conditional zoning from BSC Holdings. I know, Eric, you're here, and I think we have some representatives from BSC Holdings here as well.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll say a quick word, and then I'll introduce Amanda Williams from BSC Holdings is with us tonight to give kind of a little broader overview of the challenges they've encountered, the reason why we're here tonight. But back in 2019, just to give a brief overview, the project right next door to us at 150 Cane Creek Road, a planned residential development was approved for, at the time, 311 units consisting of largely apartments and townhomes with some single-family residences. It was approved, a conditional zoning was approved for CBD zoning. By our ordinance, it calls for, a certain time period where infrastructure needs to be completed for that. They headed right into the pandemic, got an extension, and then coming out of the pandemic have faced a number of challenges that they'll go through, and I believe Amanda will share with us tonight. We are on the verge of seeing work happening imminently. I can speak personally, I have issued the floodplain development permit for fill work to begin down in the lower section, and I heard just late breaking news that they have finally gotten their grading plan approved from Henderson County. So with that, I'll step back and introduce Amanda Williams to you, who some of y'all might remember from a few years ago. So, Amanda.
All right. And thank you for being here.
Thank you. It's good to see you, Mayor and Councilman. Thank you, Eric. So as Eric said, we came originally in 2019. We own the property, owned it since 2019, and have been taking care of the property. And as Eric clearly pointed out, unfortunately, we came right into the middle of the pandemic. And so our original zoning was a 1 year to get the infrastructure in place, which unfortunately in today's world is almost impossible. But we hit right in 2020, came, asked for an extension, thought this should, pandemic would not do what it did. Unfortunately, as we all know, in 2020, kind of the world started to shut down. A lot of people work from home, and we ran into a lot of challenges dealing with all of the different departments that we deal with, Henderson County and water, sewer, Fletcher, et cetera. And so started running into a bunch of challenges. As Eric mentioned, our property does have a bunch of floodplain and floodway on it. And so we've been working with the Corps of Engineers for several years now. We finally got our permits approved in February of 2024. Unfortunately, during that time, the representative from the Corps of Engineers we are working with got relocated to another part of the state. Our environmental scientist unfortunately passed away. So we ended up having to restart a lot of that work, and then folks working from home. We got everything approved, like I said, in February of 2024. We needed all the core permits and the stuff from Diener in order to get to Henderson County to get our grading stuff approved. And we finally got our grading permit about 4 weeks ago. We just met this afternoon with Deb Johnson from Henderson County Erosion Control and had our pre-construction meeting. So we will be, and you will see today, there are survey flags out there. We are getting the boundary survey finished such that they can go ahead and mark clearing limits. Our clearing limits will be marked hopefully in about 2 weeks. You will see the erosion company putting all of our silt fences in and clearing stuff. And then we've hired our tree guy. He's planning to start hopefully in the next 3 to 4 weeks. So the plan with Henderson County is we have to have all of our erosion control measures in place, which is the silt fence, construction entrance, et cetera. We'll turn around, you'll see some clearing, but you will not see tree stumps and all that move. We have to get our erosion control devices in. They'll get that approved, and then we'll start that, and our grading will hopefully start shortly after. So what we're asking for tonight is an extension of that to have significant infrastructure in place by December 31st, 2026. Bearing that we don't have a bad winter and a bad fall, because we know as soon as it gets wet, you know, dealing with the floodplain and all that, that tends to slow down and not be able to fill that area. We hope that we will have no problem whatsoever, and we plan to apply for building permits with Henderson County in 2025. So our plan that was approved in 2019 has not changed significantly. We have lost some units due to the determinations from the Corps of Engineers and all the floodplain and floodway. So we did have significantly more single-family villas that were shown. We're now down to 23. We've decided because of the market, we should take our townhouses to 1-stories instead of having 2-story townhouses, knowing that there's a lot of folks that live in the area that want to downsize, and maybe stairs are not really their thing. And so we've taken most of our townhouses to 1-stories. Our apartment buildings have not changed whatsoever since they were approved by you guys in 2019. They're still 2-story, exact same buildings. And so that is kind of the overview. I am more than happy to answer any questions anybody has or provide any more information you'd like.
Questions, comments?
How many phases were there in this project again?
So the site work will all be in one phase. Building may be possibly in 2, but we would not be starting, stopping, and then going again. When I say phases, we'll probably start at the top of the hill because we are preserving the house and redoing the house to have our office in there. So may start with the apartments at the top and then work our way slowly down. So you may see that the apartments would come to market as while we're building the towns and the villas.
That way you're not tearing the roads up as you're completing your doing this.
Yeah, no, because so we're doing 299 units, and because of the size of the project, and we will be building the project ourselves, we have our own general contracting company. In fact, Matt is with me tonight. He is our project manager and runs all of our construction side. So we'll just be doing that like we do on all of our communities. It just, you know, in maybe 2 phases, but we'll keep going.
And these aren't planned to be town-maintained roads, it's a gated
Yeah, it's a gated
development.
community, yeah.
Yeah, and there's no gates. So it's all, we don't have any gates. It's just all private roads. So we'll handle everything internally privately. All the infrastructure will be private.
So you only had to take off 12 units from your,
Yeah, down in the lower section. We were able to get some more, originally, we had more villas than towns, but we turned around and modified and got some more towns that were 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. So we picked up a little bit of units in the townhouses that we had lost from the villa side. But yeah, we've only lost around 12.
and I'm just curious, have you had any other projects going on in the last 5 years?
Yes, quite a bit.
What other projects do you have going?
We just finished a project in Kernersville called the Knolls at Mill Creek. It's 170 units. We did start that one in 2018, put all the slabs in, and then unfortunately COVID hit and the cost of, lumber went up, but we turned around and we completed that project. We just finished a project called the Lofts at Westmont and Colfax. It was 100 units. Just finished a project before that, the Landing at Westmont, that was 190 units. We have a project under construction right now in High Point called Lakeside at James Landing. That's 130 units. We're wrapping up another project in Winston-Salem called Lofts Hillside 2, which is 100 units. So we've
this
been
one
building.
This one just got put on the back burner
No,
for the last
unfortunately
5
not.
years.
We've been dealing with all the issues with the Corps of Engineers and all the challenges dealing with the floodplains and the gas pipe, and I could go on and on. Unfortunately, the challenges that came to this project, when we bought the property, we knew we were gonna deal with challenges with the floodplain. We had no idea what we were gonna run into when we bought the property. But we've been working through all of those challenges, unfortunately, over time. So,
Do you have a map with you today? I mean, I saw this one on the back,
I
but
do have a site plan.
I'd love to look at it.
Yeah. Can I approach the Wrench and Racing?
Absolutely, yeah. Do you think that you'll be able to still maintain the home that's sitting there?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
So, in fact, before we came to visit after our pre-construction meeting, Matt and I spent about an hour and a half at the house today, measuring rooms, trying to figure out what we could save, how we could do it. But when we bought that, I'll tell you this, when we bought the property, when it was brought to us, oh Lord, it was 10 years ago now, we pulled up and if you know Kensington Place Apartments in Sweeten Creek, we own that property. We built that property back in the 80s. We thought, oh my gosh, it's another Kensington Place. And we are going to use the house as our leasing office, and then we're going to change the upstairs to a suite that we can rent out for folks to use, to have either come stay in the evenings or, for the week or something like that. We also give our employees and our residents first priority use of that.
That's nice.
Yeah. We've done that in Kensington for years, and quite frankly, it's been a huge asset for us. So, one thing about us is we do not build for anybody else. We don't sell our properties. So we own every single thing, and we manage everything we've ever built. So that's our game plan, and that will be our game plan. That's been our plan for the 80s, and that will be the same here. So we have no intentions of building it, flipping it, or selling it. I will be the contact from the management side going forward. So, and I got many years, unfortunately.
I know it's early, but any
Sure.
idea your price point on some of this for folks?
The market in Asheville is crazy. I will tell you that.
That's why I figured it was a little early, but
I would say this, when I look at the Greensboro market versus the Asheville market, what I get for a 1-bedroom and a 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom in Greensboro is significantly lower than what we get for Kensington Place in Asheville. But I will tell you, in Kensington Place, we get about 1,000 to 1,100 starting on a 1-bedroom. Our 2-bedrooms are probably in the 13-some range. I would bet you, unfortunately, in today's economic conditions and how much it costs to build and all those other things, that we'd probably be in the $1,100 to maybe $1,300 because we've got studios, to 1-bedrooms. 2-bedrooms, I would hope that we're not over more than $1,600 or $1,700. We're not coming in here to try to make a cash cow. We're not coming in here to rip off the folks. We obviously do want a return on investment, but since we own it, we do have the ability to come in and slowly grow our rents over time, which is what we did with all the properties that we own and manage. During COVID, we didn't take our rents up $400 in renewals. People can't afford that. We slowly do increase those throughout the lease, throughout the years. And obviously, you can't increase anybody during a lease term. That's a lock price. So, you're welcome.
So maybe possibly like workforce housing is
That's
what
what
we're
we're
looking
hoping
at.
for. That's what I'd like to be. We don't need, luxury is nice, but who can afford $1,700 for 1-bedroom?
And you can do nice things without breaking the bank and breaking everybody else's banking process.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so when we build, like I said, we own, manage, and develop, this is our baby forever. So obviously, we're going to do it nice up front, but we're also going to do that because at the end of the day, we want 30-year architectural shingles, because we're going to need that, right? I don't want to be replacing roofs in 10 years. We're going to put tile backsplashes in bathrooms because they maintain well. We build it nice because a lot of our folks that come to live with us move out of houses, they retire. A lot of the communities that we build like that, we get a lot of retirees, a lot of baby boomers. We still get a lot of working professionals, and depending on the school district, we get a lot of families. If we get families, usually they're with us for a set amount of time before they move and find a house or whatever their term is. But I've got residents from some of our properties that have been with us 20 plus years. I've got residents in Kensington that have been with us over 30 years. So,
And that just goes to show they're happy with where they're at.
well, it's all about customer service. We try to say that we're different than everybody else, and I firmly believe that we are different because I don't have investors to report to, and I don't have other owners, and we're not trying to build it up and sell it. So,
I got a question, but I guess it might be toward Eric right here. Your neighboring property, they've built up and was able to come out of the floodplains, it looks like. So what's the difference between that property, their neighboring property versus the property they're looking at?
There's slightly different ways to go about developing the floodplain. You're talking about the apartments by the park?
No, if you go down right there off of, I guess, Mills Gap, or is that they're bringing up all the property dirt, they're putting, looks like they're putting drainage lines in, boxes, yeah. So basically it's across the river, but if they was able to get these permits, if you're saying you could not get the permits, what's the difference in that?
Well, the site that's being developed industrial is largely going to not be building. There's going to be one little 7,000 square foot building up at the front of the property, and they're going to be elevated down on a hill pad. The rest of that site is going to be open storage for their vehicles. So in this case, the developer they're going to be doing a lot of fill work to fill the areas in what's called the flood fringe, to then petition FEMA to go for what's called a letter of map revision by fill, to essentially get FEMA by the letter to remove it from the floodplain. Only then would they come to us for zoning permits for the structures and what was then hopefully formerly the floodplain. Whereas there's some, I don't know, dividing line, the site plan may show the boundary, but the upper level, obviously not floodplain, they'll be able to go ahead and get started with zoning permits on that first. I believe some of the dirt from there is going to go down.
Yeah, a lot of so any area that we're building in the floodplain, we have to come up a minimum of 3 feet. But if you look at the plan, not the one that's in front of you, but if you flip through to some of the other plans, the grading plans in there, there's a significant amount of creeks and other little small wetland areas that inhibit a lot of the development of that area. So if I can show you better on like grading plan, but we're literally pinching and squeezing in those areas between the creeks and the wetlands and the gas line and all that as to where we can manage and squeeze. But most of the fill for that area will come off the hill. So we've got our grading plan, we have a balanced site. We're gonna take some of the fill from there to fill in the floodplain area to be able to build. And you can follow the road and see the units, and there's literally, that's the area where we can actually develop in that area. It's very minimal.
And one more question, I guess, toward you. If it was not approved, what happens to the property?
I mean, well, in theory, what we're trying to do is like take this next extension request kind of through the easy version. There is another section in the ordinance under what's called vested rights, which has a more formal and complex process that involves going to planning board and then back to council in a more formal public hearing. Based on, factoring in things like the amount of investment they've already done in the property to show they've got the site-specific approved plan. There's actually statutes now, if it were to go into the vested right, some of those Chapter 160D amendments we did a few years ago. There's a statute that I believe gives multi-phase residential developments over 25 acres up to 7 years of vesting. So, granted, you would go back to their 2019 approval and say that, their vesting could go, but we would, if it were to go into the more formal process of looking at vested rights, we'd largely be bound by statute to approve it. If, things got crazy for them and, in the next couple of years, some unanticipated challenges came up, then, we'd be talking with the lawyer to find out, but, it's like, I can say, though, that not much in our zoning ordinance has changed, that would, oftentimes, if a project is delayed a significant time, sometimes a municipality will undergo massive changes in their zoning code that you would then want a project that might have been previously approved to then be conforming with whatever's in place under that current ordinance. Again, we've not seen any real changes. Again, I go back to the long-standing various iterations of the town center overlay and whatnot, and going back all the way to the late 90s and the very first concept plans, even though we never controlled this land over here, it showed that it was expected to become some form of higher density housing right next to where we hope to be the town center. So that's a long rambling answer to your question, but that's generally the gist. And if it were to go sideways, we would get into the vesting process next.
My only concern is this, it's been 5 years and nothing's been moved, if that makes sense. It seems like you're looking around, you're seeing everybody else having no problems. You're the only ones having problems. So that's a concern I had right there.
I understand.
Just being bluntly honest.
We have all of our permits now,
Yep.
finally, so we are ready to go. And unfortunately, it has taken as long as it has, and it's been unfortunate. We've spent a lot of money, and I don't want to tell you how much, and a lot of time, but we kept Eric in the loop on everything, and we're here and we're ready. And when we came in 2019 and said we were going to do this, we were serious, and we're going to do it, and we're ready to do it. And we've endeavored through every single challenge, no matter what's thrown us our way, and all the fun things, and our engineer pulling his hair out and saying this is one of the most complicated sites, but, we're invested in the project and we're ready to do the project, and here we are. And so happy to answer any other concerns, and I completely understand from your standpoint, absolutely. Had we not hit COVID, would it have taken a little longer than expected? Yes, because the Corps of Engineers has been a difficult group to deal with, the floodplain stuff. Would it have taken 5? No. But, when people change, and unfortunately, people don't work from home, and then somebody passed away and all those things, and having to restart, and then having a new person from the Corps. But we're here, and we're committed, and we've got all of our permits, and we're very happy to say that. And, we're finalizing our grading contract right now. We've got all of our utilities submitted in to Henderson for water and sewer and MSD and all that. So we've done a second TIA. It's in DOT's approval process again. We should hope to get that any day, but they were nice enough to give us a temporary driveway permit, so we're ready to start tomorrow.
Who's doing your water and sewer?
We don't know yet, but we've gotten several companies, and I'm happy to take any more recommendations if you have any.
I just figured that maybe it might be MSD since they're right on the borderline here.
Yeah, we will have to deal with MSD, absolutely, for water and sewer, but we'll have a private contractor put them all in, absolutely.
Yeah, it would be City Hendersonville Water and then
Yeah.
MSD for the sewerage.
Yeah, all the approvals will go through MSD and the City of Hendersonville, but we'll have a private contractor install it per plans.
All right, do we have any other questions or comments?
I don't know if Eric, you wanted to, it appears imminent that their grading permit's about to go. I mean, based on everything we've seen, the plans, and, I can't guarantee, and I know Amanda's explained that you're about to see, you should see the surveying flags, and I even had a phone call from someone that you were getting a bid on, or getting a quote for doing the grading, and asking me about what the process was, which we really don't. It's a Henderson County building inspections review and state requirements, but, so,
Is it possible
appears
to
about
do a
happen.
tour?
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen the home.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I'd love to, sometimes you can understand what's going on there if you walk the property, but,
I would love to do that.
okay, thanks.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
I have a card, I can give it to you.
That's
I'd be happy to do
perfect.
that, and we'll be up a lot. We're very hands-on in our
Mm-hmm.
project, and so I told Kendall today, who's our erosion control inspector, as soon as we get all of our erosion control measures in, we're going to come in and have a meeting with him when the tree guy starts and make sure we're all on the same page. So absolutely, I
Okay.
could definitely reach out to you when we're.
Just whenever's a convenient time, don't inconvenience yourself, because I live nearby, of course, and
Yeah.
I'd love to see the place.
We come up for quite a bit, and we'll be spending quite a bit of time up there.
It's worth it to see, excuse me, Amanda had Eric and I up, and then way back when we referred to it, the Rutledge Harris property, Mr. Moore, Ben Moore had taken us up there, and it's a really neat old house, nice views looking east, I think, towards the mountains.
It's a
so,
phenomenal
yeah.
house. Unfortunately, it's had some issues, but we are going to completely
bet.
retrofit it back. But the character of that house is amazing. Every room has a massive fireplace in it. So,
That's neat.
a lot of great history. And if you don't know, it was a wedding present for a Charleston family back in the 1800s, and we are the first owners to actually own that house. It has been in the family since the 1800s.
That's insane.
Yeah, neat property.
Well, maybe we can open it up to all the council to potentially
Oh,
see it, because I think
Yeah,
the
if
majority
you
of us
guys-
weren't on council.
As
Maybe
long
just
as
one of
there's
us when it was
no
initially
issue.
approved.
I know in other municipalities, council can't get together in one form.
Yeah, we would have to
As
go
long
in smaller groups, probably.
as- No problem, don't mind at all.
Thanks.
Happy to do that.
I noticed it's in consent agenda, I guess it's, if everybody approves it, I'm taking it. Keep it
Let me
consent.
just interject too, that I didn't want to seem presumptuous by that. I had consent to start with. There's no question it could remain on consent for next week, but if there were any lingering questions, Ms. Williams was prepared to come back next week if needed.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be on consent, we just put it on there, want to give the opportunity for the owner, developer here to speak to the need.
Well, I think it's appropriate to leave it on consent if there's no objection.
Only thing I could say is if it's, this is just coming from me, if it's the will of the board that I know this is a third extension, for me personally, would not be a fourth extension whatsoever. We'll be talking to lawyers, I mean, it's getting drawn out way too long, if that makes sense. So that's just my opinion.
And let me just add on one thing that pops in mind. In theory, like at the end of that, if time ran out, in theory, it could start all over where a new application was submitted. Now, knocking on wood, I say there will be significant stuff on the ground 2 years from now.
Well, 2.5 years, this extension's 2.5 years, so it's a longer extension than normal.
Yeah, it's like before there would be an opportunity for the developer to theoretically come back with a new application, and it would just be reviewed again, and it would be go through the whole planning board council process.
We do expect that all site work would be completed in 18 months.
Do what now?
We expect all site work would be completed in about 18 months.
On-site meaning infrastructure. Okay.
Like I said, we are applying for building permits in 2025. And it's
Okay.
not a product we haven't built before, it's a product we've built multiple times, so.
Did I read 3 years? Did I read 3 years in y'all's letter?
3 years, I'm sorry,
I
what?
said, did I read 3 years in y'all's letter to be completed with everything?
Building and everything,
Yeah,
yeah.
3 years.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it takes a little bit of time to build a community that
Yeah.
big, but like I said, we're gonna start from the front and we're gonna go all the way through. So hopefully it's less. We like to be conservative in our time frame. We hope it's quicker. But
Okay.
we wanna be conservative and be honest with you. I don't wanna tell you we can do it in 2 and then, y'all are sitting there going 2, like, what the heck? It's only half built.
Sure.
We're at the mercy, unfortunately, of subcontractors, but I believe that we will not have those challenges. Hopefully, we are past the COVID era, thank goodness, and everybody is ready to work, and we're ready to do it. And obviously, it's going to cost us a lot more money, but we know that, and we're ready, and we've got the financial wherewithal to do it.
Okay. Well, do we have any objections to it remaining on the consent agenda? I didn't hear any before. Okay. We'll leave it on the consent agenda, and we thank you for, do we have any other questions? All right, hearing none, we thank you for being here.
Thank
Amanda.
you, and I will leave my information with Eric so he can share it with you after the meeting.
Okay.
I know you guys have a little bit more on the agenda to go.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, we thank you.
Thanks for sharing that.
All righty, moving on to item number 5. Next week, we'll have the public hearing for the approval of, for the possible approval of amendments to the Fletcher Land Development Code. Do you have something ahead of time for
All
that?
I was going to say is that I gave kind of the general overview
Yeah.
last month, and I was going to say I'm happy to take a question if you have it in advance of next week, but I'll go through everything next week kind of as efficiently as possible, but
Okay.
unless you have any questions.
Anything ahead of time? All righty.
see y'all
Thank you.
next week. Thank you.
Yeah, see you next week.
Thanks, Eric.
All righty, item number 6. Next week, we'll also have the public hearing on the proposed budget. Do we have everything ahead of time on that? Are we good, everybody?
Yeah.
All righty, the next
You
week.
got your budget ordinance that, provides a fair amount of detail on it. We've got the draft of the budget and the budget message that was available for comment and review as of last Wednesday. And, we're required to advertise it at least 10 days in advance for the public hearing, which will be next Monday. So that's been advertised, that's available for comment review. We haven't had any as of right now. And we typically don't get a lot unless there's something controversial, like, last year with reval, and we had very little with that. A lot of resident interest, because no one knows it's going to impact tax-wise, but this year it's been very quiet so far. And the only other thing of note on there is we got the new values, which I shared with you all. It didn't go up, it was about 6 million. So from about 1.46 billion, 1,846 million to 1,852 million. So it's a small amount. So with that additional revenue, we have to increase the expense estimate in CIP for the 7 cents that gets dedicated there, and then for the fire department. So those 2 areas of expense went up a little bit then because of the new values, as opposed to what I presented to you at the retreat budget workshop. And then with the little bit additional revenues, the amount that was in there for, used for fund balance appropriated to balance it came down a little bit. So, those are really the only things to note that changed since the recommended budget that was presented.
Okay. Any questions or comments? All right, we'll look forward to that next week. We're on item number 7, on contract discussions with Fletcher Fire and Rescue. Mr. Manager.
Okay, well, kind of where y'all stand right now, there was kind of 3 sections of the contract that you were going back and forth with the fire board on trying to come to consensus on some new terms. And you got comments back on section 2, which had to do with agreeing to provide a minimum level of funding to protect the rating, the ISO fire rating. And y'all had difference of opinion on how that should be worded or not worded at all. And prior language, or the last version that came back from the fire department, was wanting to put language in there that you would have to provide a level of funding to maintain that rating, and if it were to fall, it would basically be the responsibility or fault of the town on that, kind of the way it was worded. And then the other was section 5, which had to do with the having public input as part of the process, you know, an opportunity for a complaint or suggestions, and more of a stated process to do that at fire board meetings, and there was a difference of opinion on that. And then section 15 was the last one, and that had to do with workers' comp coverage, because right now the workers' comp coverage is being provided by this special fund that the county apparently uses to some revenue out of there. It's a volunteer firefighter, I'm forgetting the formal title of it, but out of that fund comes monies to pay for workers' comp coverage. And so they wanted, as you recall, a provision in there that went away, that funding source that the town would agree to pay for workers' comp coverage. And so that was, you know, a disagreement. So, you know, kind of from here, I would suggest, I mean, there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can keep going back and forth with sending, and then trying to explain the why and the no and yes.
And if I may, just not to
Yeah.
interrupt you, I know Trevor and I spoke, and I think we're probably both in agreement that we probably just need to sit down with them and talk it out. Talk it out again.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what
recommend that
council's at.
with y'all's input, the rest of council, that our committee representatives, which is mayor with Preston and Councilman Lance, then meet with representative of the fire board to talk out these issues. Hopefully get the consensus. I don't know how many.
Basically, both tire boards need to come together. I mean, we're so close with 3 items, I think we can iron out. Actually, I think it's 2 items, because I think they come back with an agreement saying the verbiage on 5, they worked it out.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably more appropriate, just how things are going.
And I was gonna try and check, you know, a little behind the scenes, maybe with someone from the county about that funding source that covers the workers' comp coverage is, I just,
30 or 40.
okay, I just
So
don't
it's
know
not
much, I don't know
imminently
much
going
about
away.
it. Is
Not
it,
that I'm aware of.
okay,
So I
yeah,
don't
was it in
understand why we would
any
need to-
jeopardy or anything? I was just, or maybe they
I was
just
wondering about that.
wanted to put that in there as just extra
But I did mention
protection.
it might be something, that's had to spark that comment from somewhere somehow
Yeah.
for them, so.
It's probably the same thing like it's going right now for the last 3, going on to 4 years, that the state's had some extra money. I know, like for us and other fire departments that have not had to pay that. So I guess they're wondering eventually, is that shoe going to drop? And has the county took them funds and used it for something else? When that shoe drops, they won't have the funding.
Yeah.
I mean, that might be a
Maybe. Yeah.
thought, but still, for the town having to pay, they got 3 departments, and one of the departments actually is in this town of city limits, and they want us to pay 100% of the workers' comp, and that's not really, to me, they can come back to council and also the county and ask for an increase if something like that comes up. They're only looking at roughly $40,000 of workers' comp fees, but I think it's time for the two boards to get together. Just by conversation, it sounds like some of the, one or maybe two people are just communicating, that's it. The entire board has not seen the contract. I just kind of briefly mentioned to one of the board members and said they don't know. Only thing they, when they ask about it, is it's almost complete. So I think it's time for us to actually get together and review it as a whole.
Yeah. Jim had some substantive review thoughts on that too, I know, so. Okay. Do you want me to reach back out to Captain, or Chief Garland and?
Yeah, to see if we can set up a
whatever,
meeting.
Facilitate a meeting, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if it's
That's right,
both,
you want to do a joint meeting or just the committee members?
so what would be
meeting?
the requirement? We would need to advertise that. right?
Yeah,
It would be an open
yeah, if
meeting.
you want the whole, all council, we'd have to advertise a special
It
call
would be an open meeting, yeah.
Unless you want to add it to as an agenda item, like in a work session. You probably want to do a special call, either that or a work session item at a regular meeting.
Whatever we can do, to me, I just think both boards needs, that's just finally, we're so close, let's just nudge it and we're done.
Yeah.
Because I think the whole thing was just trying to get it done by July, or in July, and we're already in June.
Yeah, pushing it.
It's almost like one more meeting, we might could finish it.
So, suggestion for a special call meeting, or is that what you?
Yeah, that's what I was
Okay.
gonna suggest, and maybe we can all figure out a time when we could do
Yeah.
that.
I'll float that and send it to Chief Garland and get that to probably Hugh Clark and some others and see what the rest of the board wants to do.
And if they're saying no to that, then let's try to set up a meeting with Trevor and I, and their representatives
Got it.
as well.
Okay.
I wouldn't leave that for an option. I would just wait.
That's fine?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. It's like, just aim for this to get it done.
Sure.
But I understand what you're saying. Everybody needs a backup plan.
That's fine. All right, do we have anything else on that item?
I didn't have anything else unless council does.
All righty, moving on to your report, Mr. Manager.
Okay. Just a few things for you. So, field visit with with Retail Strategies, the consulting firm that's doing the retail analysis. They mentioned they'd come out and spend some time out here, kind of boots on the ground, really looking at the area and studying some properties. I'm not sure how many days they're here, but they're flying in on the 19th of this month. That's a Wednesday, the 19th. And I had mentioned previously that y'all, at least some or all of council, I think, wanted to meet them and maybe get briefed. And I wasn't going to do this as part of a formal meeting, but if we wanted to have a lunch with them, I may try and they fly in right around noon on the 19th, maybe bring lunch in here, and then whoever can come from council that would want to join, they could, you could ask questions and get brief from them, kind of what they've found to this point. And if we need something else separate out of that, if that doesn't work, to meet with some of their officials coming in, we can set that up too. I just wanted y'all to have that opportunity because you expressed interest on that before.
I can meet them.
Yeah, and they'll be in town here then, so doing their field work. So I'll email you another reminder about it, and then once we can firm up, I don't know, lunch at 1 or 1:30, you can come in, and if you want to come have lunch and meet them, or come in later in the day and meet, that's fine too. So,
What day?
that's a Wednesday,
The
the 19th of this month, June 19th, Wednesday.
I'll be unable to attend, I'll be at the Fletcher Fire Board meeting at the same time, so that's what they
Okay.
have there, so I won't be able to do that.
Okay. And
But still hammer down.
okay.
I don't have to be there.
Okay. And if there's another opportunity where I think at the end, when they get, I'll have to talk to them when they would, any other planned visits coming back. other than like the draft of their marketing plan for us, so, okay. And I'll circle back who can make it for lunch or whatever time that day, and, so we have a good head count. So that's, yeah, looking forward to hear what they have to say, because this stage, they've done some of that retail gap analysis, and so they'll have some data, initial data coming back in, but now they need to kind of get out here and see the properties and see the community a little bit better as they continue their work, so, okay. Just, this wasn't a huge issue, but some noise complaints. We fielded over the last couple weeks, a bunch of them. I say a bunch, it was about 4, but one of them in particular was the president of the HOA of Village at Windstone, and this is regarding noise that they believe they're hearing from the Wilson Art plant, which we know Wilson Art's been there for a long time, before any of this other development, that residential development came up after it. But, they've been good neighbors. They've tried to address some noise issues. And what the noise issue is as a part of their production process, steam is used in that. And when that steam is released, it produces some noise, and it's during a downtime period of production where this has to be released, and apparently it's been a little bit noisier than normal. And I know even Sheila had mentioned, because you live not that far from there,
Yeah.
that you've heard some additional noise.
It was unbelievable one day.
Really?
My
Yeah.
daughter was over at the house, and she goes, "Mom, what is that?" And I'm like, I can't believe it's going on this long, but that's sometimes the noise we hear from one of the plants over there. But I was wondering, what day was it that you got a complaint? Do you remember?
It was different days. It was
Okay.
like a week and a half ago or 2 weeks. The president of the HOA at Windstone, he said it was over the weekend. It was it was like frequent, ongoing. And they had some company over, and they were outside, and just, and it's not like you can't carry on a conversation or enjoy, but apparently it was much
It's
more
close to that.
annoying. Well, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
close to that.
Oh, yeah.
It's annoying enough to where you stop talking, because it's like, gosh.
What is, yeah.
But I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday of last week, and it just went on for the longest time in the afternoon. The whole time we were out in the
Okay.
backyard.
So they have this muffler system that somehow dampens or softens the noise of the steam when it's being released. They put it on about, the plant manager, I called her and I emailed her, and I just heard back from her a couple days ago or late last week, and mentioned that they were aware of the complaints. They checked out this muffler system that they put it in, she said, about 10 years ago. And it was, for that purpose, to try and reduce the noise from when the steam is released, and said that it was operating properly. So
Over the years, they do it at night.
yes, that's what I've heard that about it. It's
Yeah.
usually in the evening, but this.
So
time
you
it's
just
during
try
the
to
day.
get used to that. It throws you off when you go to bed, but then it's like, okay, it's just going to go on for a while. But hearing it in the middle of the day, the way we did last week, it was like, wow, this is getting worse.
Yeah.
So,
So if it continues to be an issue, I called back the HOA president from, his name's Ron Wild, from Village at Windstone. And I had I had a couple conversations with him, and this last one, when I called back last week, I kind of said, the plant has responded, they said that the system's working right. Kind of at this point, I don't know what more we can do from the town perspective. you know, they are a legally operating facility that does have some noise issues. I mean, if it continues to be a problem, I said, you know, let me know, let us know. I mean, if you're continue to hear it, and it's a lot different than what it was before, or louder, or more ongoing, you know, let us know and we can talk to the plant. Maybe there's some modification. This is just me talking. I don't know what they can do there, but maybe there's some other modification to the muffler system. So,
Okay.
yeah, but that, you know, I kind of like it, because our noise ordinance, and it's probably a good idea we don't get into that level, especially some noise ordinances have like decibel. Yeah, so you have to have a decimeter and minimal decibel levels, and I mean, what's allowable or comfortable gets pretty subjective. I know putting a measurement to it and saying what's too loud is pretty objective, but what each person's tolerance with it is, that becomes more subjective. And ours has, you know, addresses not past, I think it's 10 o'clock at night with people lowering music or noise. So that's kind of how I left it. You know, it doesn't hurt to reach out to the town to say, hey, what's going on? And we, you know, the plant isn't always necessarily going to tell us if they're making modifications out there or doing something. But if people are having trouble with it, you know, it's good to know for maybe there's something that can be done. I mean, they
Well-
put the muffler system in 10 years ago to try and address some of the noise issues, so.
We live in a manufacturing community,
Wilson
so
Art.
you can expect some of that. And we're very grateful to have those manufacturers in our
Sure.
community. We may have a few more than many.
Yeah, we
So
do.
I'm sure we can come up to a happy medium somehow.
Yeah.
And it might have been just a freak thing that the couple of times that I heard and he heard was excessive, more so than not. So,
Yep. And it, you know,
thanks for reaching out to Wilson Art.
Sure. Yeah, Tammy Albrecht is the plant manager. She's been the manager there for.
Albright?
Albrecht.
Okay.
She's been there for a long time, so.
I feel if we get to the point where we're measuring decibels of their noise, I think it'd be a good idea to check what the airport noise is as we're going on, because as they've
I know,
grown-
it's a whole lot worse.
You know, as they've grown and got bigger runways and they're doing bigger planes and making further more trips, the planes have gotten, I'm gonna say in the past 2-3 years, have gotten a lot louder. So I would like to put a baseline on that if we get to that point. That way we know how much they've grown or how much they're doing more or whatever. Just, I think
That's a
it'd be an
thought.
interesting survey to find out, because I think just since their last expansion, it's gotten a lot louder. But that's just,
Yeah.
so.
So unless there's any other questions on that. Last thing was the grant application that we had talked to you about, that Conserving Carolina was going to put together for the Connecting Communities to State Trails grant. Rebecca Robinson, who had been here, she completed that and sent that in last week. And it's for $100,000, and then there's $100,000 local match. So we'll let you know with that, and then, you know, you'll be hearing back from her about the other one in July, so I guess next month already, about the Great Trails, Great State Trails Program, Great Trails State Program, I think that's it. The other one.
That's for like what?
GTSP.
500? That was like 500 or something like that?
Yeah, that was a much larger ceiling for a grant application.
What's the
and
timeline on the one they just submitted, do you know?
I think they find out by
Was it September?
September, or no, it's later than that. September was, I
Sounds-
think, the deadline, or no,
September for something.
Yeah, I do too.
for
I
the
can't
other
remember what it
one,
was.
but I don't know if that's when it's notified. It might be September, I'd have to check.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, and that's all I had.
Okay. Do we have any other business from council?
Just one question, I've had a couple of residents inquire again about the old savings gas.
Yeah.
I know the tanks came out of the ground, but the building is still.
Hallelujah, yeah.
Everybody was real hopeful that would get torn down, and then all the construction equipment left, and
Okay.
didn't know,
Yeah.
people just died, you know.
Yeah, I have not, we have not gotten, and I can ask Eric,
Okay.
Eric usually tells me if he gets anything updated, he's very prompt about that, but my guess is we'll probably have to reach out to him again, because I thought it would have been taken down by now, because we, like you said, the
Tanks
equip-
came
yeah,
out.
the tanks came
Yeah, I
out,
watched them take the tanks out,
Yeah.
and the building is just,
and it looks like the other equipment I thought was mobilized to do the demo of that old building, but, yeah, we'll reach out, and
Just-
thanks for
just
asking.
curious.
Yeah, because I'm curious, I know staff-wise, we're curious on what timeliners or what's happening, because I think the last we mentioned to you was April, like late April, or somewhere in
Yeah.
there, and here it is, beginning of June,
Yep.
so.
I've just got one question, quick question, I apologize. Have you heard anything about the state vehicle that parks in Hoopers Creek for almost going on a year now? Did anybody ever inquire with Chief Terry or anybody as to, I mean, it's just a little strange. He parks in the same spot, which blocks the curb, which you can't see around.
You can't see, and he's gonna get hit one of these days.
Yeah,
Someone's gonna be
it's a
around.
big black SUV with a state license tag, and I guess you can park wherever you want to, but where he chooses to park blocks your sight when you're turning off of Souther Road. And people are just wondering, why is he here? Are they doing a site location for a roundabout, which nobody in Hoopers Creek wants? But is that what's going on? I mean, what is he there
There was
for?
something on next door months ago. Of course, I'm
Yeah.
not in that area, I've been gone a month.
Well, he's still showing up, just as much as last
He
week.
parks there because he has bad internet at home and he's working in his vehicle. I've heard that. Now, if that's a
Okay.
rumor or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's a.
I
I'm
know,
trying to
I
remember,
thought
I
about it.
reached out to DOT,
Figured he'd tell me
and
my own
the
business.
district engineer, Troy, I want to say it was a I'd have to look at my records. I wanted to say it was a DOT vehicle that was authorized to park there. But you're saying it's hard to see where it's parked?
Where he parks is right there where the new
So, I
wine
mean,
market
all we can do
is.
is complain to DOT.
And he
about
backs
it.
along that road. And so when you pull up to the stop sign and take a left, I mean, that's a quick turn. And anybody coming down through there, you need to be able to see as far down the road as you can, because there's a quick turn there. And the road operates very well, almost like a roundabout as it is, because Hoopers Creek is, and goes through without any stops. And then Bernie Mountain and Souther, they just alternate. It works real well, but if you're coming off Souther, you can't see around him,
So it's at the intersection of Souther and Hoopers Creek?
Hoopers Creek. And he chooses to park right at the curve, right where the trash bin is, actually. So
It's a
between the
big
trash
Tahoe or
bin and
something like
him,
that, yeah.
you can't see if something's coming or not
And
until it's too late.
Black color?
Big black
dark
SUV, maybe like a Tahoe or a Suburban.
It's a dark gray. It's got the yellow tag on it.
Yeah, a Tahoe. It's a pretty vehicle. I like cars, I can't help it.
gave that away.
Pardon?
I'm sympathize with the bad.
Sight.
See around.
Just trying to see around, yeah.
That's what I'm here about.
Right. You know.
All right, we got any other business? All right, hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adjourn, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, we're adjourned.
Just a reminder, I won't be here next week.